Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. We're back for part 2 of big changes to my Avatar Grove. In the last video, I repotted the Avatar Grove into its new landscape mica pot. The new pot gives the Avatar Grove a whole new look. Today I'm going to be focusing on the pruning of the trees and refining the landscape to give it a real miniature look. I was hoping to start all this work the next day after repotting, but we had a bit of a construction project in the neighborhood and there was a lot of noise around. Here's a shot of the construction project, a new fence beside my bonsai garden. While I was waiting for things to quieten down, I did clean out the greenhouse. So I've got all the benches ready to put my tropical trees outside, and they can come out now. The risk of frost is pretty well gone. I am going to keep my eye on the nighttime temperatures, because we can get frost in June. But in the greenhouse here, they're pretty protected. Even if we get a light frost outside, the trees stay okay in the greenhouse. I got the roof all back in order, and I put my shade netting up. If you can see the mesh up there. And that cuts down the light, so when the trees come from the indoors to the outdoors, they don't get sunburned. So that shade netting, it can come off after the trees have gotten used to this light level. Then I can take the shade netting off and they can readjust again to a little more intense light. When I get some of the trees outdoors here, I can start setting up my benches here for my succulents using the brackets from Shirley's Simple Shelving. So yeah, I had the one row indoors for the winter, so I'll be setting that back up soon. I'm also hoping to get my outdoor studio fixed up a little more this year. Just get some work done to it and making it rainproof and that kind of thing. Let's get out the tools and start working on our thuya forest here in the bonsai zone. Before I begin work on the Avatar Grove, I'm going back and looking at all my reference photos. If you Google Avatar Grove, Port Renfrew, BC, you'll see photos of the grove and you'll see the look that I'm going for with this forest. The Avatar Grove is a section of old growth forest that's now protected, and it's become a big tourist attraction. I'm happy with the overall shape of the trees on the left-hand side of the planting. They're a nice height. The trees on the right side, they could be taller, so you get that triangular silhouette. So I've got to grow all these trees taller here to fill in this section that kind of dips down. I mean, I don't want it a perfect triangle, but sort of a rough triangular form. In an old growth forest, most of the mature trees are perfectly vertical. The trees that are on slants or have twisty trunks, they don't survive the snow loads. The trees grow vertically to reach for light way up top in the canopies. So I want all my trees in my planting to be vertical. I may have a few that are tipping over eventually, or some that have fallen over and died, but most of the trees in this planting will be absolutely vertical. I'm going to start off the work by pruning up the main tree, getting that old growth cedar look to its form. Hidden beneath the foliage of the main tree is an upright structure that you see on old growth cedar trees. I'll show you some pictures of what I want the tree to look like after pruning. Here's a drawing that I colorized from the U.S. Department of Natural Resources. It shows what a western red cedar looks like from age 50 right up to over 1,500 years old. So you can see the tree on the left is a young tree at 50 years old, and it's a height of just over 20 meters. And they reach kind of a peak at around 500 to 1,000 years old at a height of over 60 meters tall. And then the tops start dying back and you get this sort of candelabra style crown to the tree. And they sort of get a little shorter in height, but they keep getting thicker, the trunks. Some of the trunks get hollow inside, and yeah, so they get a real unique look as they become an ancient tree. So the tree in my forest, it's probably closest to the 900-year-old picture here in form. So that's kind of the style I'm going for, is sort of in between that 900 years old to 1,000 years old. Sort of that sort of style. The smaller trees in the forest will be styled more like the 100 years old to 500-year-old style. So similar height, but just skinnier trunks and, you know, a more coniferous tree type look or triangular form to them. On an old growth tree, each branch is almost its own tree. So the branches reach vertically like this, and each branch is like a separate tree. So that's the look I'm going for. So I'm going to be pruning away a lot of this bushy foliage, trying to get my upright structure to show. So here I go with the pruning of the main tree. So I'm going to remove any hanging foliage. Trying to make every branch look like a small tree. Cutting foliage back to make it more compact. I'm slowly working away, one branch at a time, pruning them up to that upright tree-like form. When I'm pruning the forest, I can't just prune one tree at a time, because all the trees fit together like a jigsaw puzzle. One tree has branches that kind of come in towards the other tree, so you've got to make everything fit so they get sunlight to all the branches. So I'm just slowly working away at pruning. It takes a long time. It'll probably take me 3 or 4 hours maybe even longer. So I'm just working away. Many of the trees in this planting start out as little tiny trees, and as they grow taller, I've been removing some of the lower branches just to get the foliage higher so you can see all the trunk lines when viewed from the front. Removing all this lower foliage is something that can't be done at once. You've got to do it in stages, so as the trees grow taller, I can remove more and more of the lower foliage. I'm at the top of the tree now, trying to open up the apex so it looks like this instead of a ball of foliage. So there's no rules to this. I'm just working away, reducing, keeping the branches I want and pruning away the others. As I'm pruning the forest, I always step back and get a view from the distance to see the balance of the trees so they're not getting heavy on one side and that kind of thing. I've been busy pruning the top of my main tree, and it's starting to get that look of an old growth cedar. I have to do the back. It's really congested at the back. I'm going to turn the tree around now, and I'll start working on the back to lighten it up like I've done on the front. I wish I could explain how I'm pruning it. I do have a video, I think it's the second one in the playlist, where I explain in detail how I prune the tree, the pruning strategy anyway. There's no fixed technique. It's a lot by the look of the tree and trial and error until you get the branch looking how you want it. Pruning away as much as you can without losing the branch is another important factor. So I'm going to turn the tree around now and start on the back of it. The main tree is getting close to its final shape now. I removed a lot of material off it, but it's starting to get that look of an old growth tree. Most of the pruning work is done on the trees now. There'll still be refinement over the next few weeks as I notice little details that I want to correct. But now it's time to start on the landscaping. There's how much foliage I removed from the trees. Quite a bit, but there's still lots on them. With the landscaping, I'm going to start by turning the planting around. And I have space on the back to build up the hill and possibly plant more trees. I was looking around for some straight cedars that I could plant in the back of the forest. I don't really have many. I've got a cascade one, the gnarly tree. That could go in there, but it's a little big to get that forest perspective. Possibility. There's the two trees I repotted the other day. they wouldn't be bad at the back there. I may put those in the back. This one, it's alive. It's just starting to grow now. That's another possibility. And then I have this one too. It's kind of got quite a crooked trunk, but if I planted it like that, coming out of the hill, it could look quite straight, so that's another possibility. So I think I'll start by mixing up some soil, some muck, so a mix of like potting soil and bonsai soil, and building up the back of the hill and getting these trees planted. For the muck to build up the back of the hill, I'm using compost made of peat moss and horse manure. To that, I'll add my bonsai soil. And the final step will be adding water so it all sticks together. Okay, I'll add the water now. And I'll see if it sticks together. That's not bad. If you can make a ball out of it, it's pretty good stuff. I'll get the 4 trees here bare rooted and ready for planting. Alright, I'll start with this tree. Get it out of the pot. And I'll start raking out the roots. I'm not sure if this was a cutting or if it was a collected tree. I'm thinking it was a collected tree by the roots here. You can see there's a root coming down here that's quite thick. Doesn't look like the roots of a cutting. It was probably a small tree that was collected alongside a larger one. They were just growing together, and so I potted it up to use in a forest. So that can be planted at the back of the planting here, coming out of the hill and growing upright. So I think that'll look pretty good. Alright, here comes tree number 2 now. It looks like it's got a good fine fibrous root system. Yeah, this tree looks a little rough right now, but it's greening up. Did get a lot of winter dieback on it, but that may be that it's from a cutting, and it wasn't as strong as a more mature tree. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is a cutting. It has all fine roots. They're all coming out from one spot. Okay, yeah, so that's a straight tree, so that could be planted back here too. Alright, I'll put that in some water while I'm doing the other trees. I've got all 4 trees bare rooted now. I will do a little root pruning on this one. They're a little long. I think I'll take a little bit off this one too, just some of those long roots. Like that. Alright, let's get out the muck and start planting these trees. I'm going to start by building up the hill with some muck. To get my basic landscape in place. And then I'll arrange the trees on top and build it up some more. So I think that's good for a base layer. And now I can arrange my trees on it. So I want these trees to be in between the other trees in the back row here. So, you know, maybe one here, maybe here. This is the tallest one, so it probably should go, yeah, maybe about here. So I'll arrange my roots, combing them out like that. Kind of draping them around the existing forest floor, like that. The tree's nice and tall. Alright, let's put some more muck on it to hold it in place. that's holding the tree there. Put a little more on up here. If I can get the slope of the ground to come up even higher, that would be really good. It would make the planting look even better. Now I'm going to see how that looks from the front, so I'm going to go around the back and see if the arrangement looks okay, if I have to move this tree at all. It's looking pretty good from back here. Yeah, I think that'll do. I'm going to try and place the next tree somewhere in here. So I think I'm going to have to prune this long branch off here, shorter. And this one also. Just to make a bit of room, I'll take this branch off here. Just to make the trees a little more compact. Keeping a nice tall leader. Okay, let's try and arrange this tree now. Maybe somewhere in between these two trees. It could go right about there, I think. So I'll comb the roots out. That looks good. And I'll get some more muck. And we'll hold the tree in place. I'll be putting moss on the outside of this muck, and that helps hold it in place also. You can see on this tree where some of the bark's been peeled off. It's a lighter color underneath. That'll go back to a gray bark by the end of the year. Okay, there's the second tree in place now. So I have a third one here. I am going to remove this one branch off of it to grow it as a taller tree. And I think that could go in somewhere here. So that's where I'll put it. I'll put it right about here. Yeah. So I'll take away a bit of this muck, comb out the roots, and get that tree planted also. These cedar roots will grow all through this hill, and they'll reinforce it. It'll become like a solid mat of roots. So probably by the end of the summer, there won't be any troubles with the hill crumbling away or anything. The roots will hold it all in place. Roots grow really fast on these cedars or thuya trees. And I have one final tree, this poor little tree that's struggling, but it's doing all right. I think it could go in I think back here. That's a good spot for it. It'll add a lot of depth. I am going to do a little pruning here. Get rid of some of these lower branches. Okay, that looks good. So I was going to put that one right here. So I'll comb the roots out. And I'll add some more muck. Getting quite a steep wall at the back here. But it's holding. I've got a few roots sticking out that I'll just prune off here. This muck is overhanging the lip of the pot, so it's kind of flush with the edge here. So as this planting gets more developed, as the roots grow into the hill, I can cut the hill back so you can see the lip of the pot at the back of the planting. Because this pot was bigger, I could extend the hill out, so I can also build it up higher now, so when viewed from the front, that slope the trees are on will look even taller than it did before. So I can get my soil in here and build up a taller hill. not easy to get in here. It's getting quite crowded with trees, which is good. I'm going to turn the planting around now and see what it looks like from the front. I still can build that hill up a little taller. So I'm looking at the forest from the front now, and I really like that extra row of trees I added at the back. It gives another sense of depth to the forest, almost like it goes on forever. So I can still build that hill up higher. I'm going to do that now, and I'll work at it from the front here. Now I don't want it coming to a point at the top here, so I'm going to do some work to make the, the contour of it to look more natural. That's looking better. I think I need a hill at the back here, right here, to kind of break up that slope a bit. I tell you, for bonsai tools, I use these spoons an awful lot. I'm sort of planning my pathway here through there. All right, let me see how this is looking. Okay, I'm looking at it from the distance, front view here. Yeah, I like that. I think the hill is looking pretty good. It's a nice steep slope. I like the profile of it. It kind of builds up in the middle, but it's not too symmetrical. I've kind of got a bump over on this side in it, and I'll have a pathway coming down around the main tree and back up through the forest. More big changes to the Avatar Grove planting today, but I've still got to do all the detail work on the landscape, adding the moss, the fallen trees, the rocks, and the pathways. So that'll be coming up in part 3. Let's go in now and have a look at the forest. So I've got to clean the root base up on these trees, all that moss around the roots. And I'm going to be adding more moss and pathways and all kinds of details. So it should look really good when it's all done. As I said, all the trees in this planting aren't very mature. They're just small little seedlings, but they'll grow up. There's the apex up there. It turned out okay. I had to do a lot of cleanup work, thinning branches and that. Looking down at the root base way down there. I'll be finishing the Avatar Grove planting tomorrow, doing all the detail work on the landscape. And then the next day I'm going to be heading down to Toronto to the Toronto Bonsai Society's annual spring show. For details on the show, check the link in the description below. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for watching here today in the Bonsai Zone.